Good evening. We are back in the garage. It's been a hot minute since I put anything out. I had a pretty rough time last winter with this car. Nothing seemed to go right for me, and the car's been off the road for most of the year. Yeah, so just a bit of a catch up really on where we are and what we're doing. How the car has been treating us, and what's going on, what's the current state of play with it. So the car itself I had back on the road in August, I think, somewhere around there. And yeah, basically just a amalgamation of shit that didn't want to work. Lots of ignition related stuff, some fueling stuff. Yeah, just lots of things to work out and get around. So yeah, managed to get the car on the road. Did the first show in it. Just on a sort of butt dyno, I suppose. I bought a AEM X Series AFR gauge, which has massively helped with the setup of this car. And yeah, just kind of went from there, playing with jet sizes and test driving the car. And it was good enough to drive sort of 50-mile round trip to a car show. So there was that. And yeah, I then took it to a company called Hartwell Autosport Developments. Had it put on the dyno and lots of fiddling around with our ignition timing, which basically saw me go from 59 brake horsepower on the first run to 96 brake horsepower out the door, and that was at 118 newton meters of torque at like 7,000 RPM, so a fair jump really from standard. Yeah, really happy with it. Drive home was mega. Car was so much more responsive. You could really feel the grunt, and the usable torque range had really shifted. And yeah, I drove around for a few months, relatively problem-free. Did a few shows. And yeah, then one November morning, decided to take it to work because it was nice and sunny, and the head gasket shit itself on the way to work, which was delightful because everyone on the roads was just, all the attention was on me. There was a massive cloud of smoke, and yeah, it really started getting bad, misfiring, and luckily I managed to coast it the rest of the way to work. Pull the plugs out and quickly suss what was going on. So I've since picked up a brand new old stock Volkswagen head from a guy called Morgan Bale, who's quite big in the Polo scene, does a lot of wiring, does a lot of 16 valve conversion engine looms and stuff on these. Very knowledgeable bloke. Gearbox rebuilds. Yeah, if you have a Polo, you need any stuff, shouts Morgan Bale. Very, very good bloke. So yeah, scored that. But yeah, it's getting there. It's just going back together. I got a couple of pressure switches, sensors, whatever, to go on. Then it should just be a case of putting the carbs back on, getting the fuel lines plumbed in, throttle cable. Yeah, only little bits, and it should be back up and running. I've got to change the oil and fill it up with coolant and blah blah blah. But yeah, I just thought I'd bring you guys along. Got a little bit of a point of view POV camera on the go. I'm filming off my phone. I'd like to get a GoPro, but at the minute I have a phone. Everyone has a phone. My phone has a very good camera. So yeah, we've got a chest mount, and we are going to do some repairing whilst talking absolute shite about carbs, because who doesn't love a good set of carbs? So where did I get to? I think I was on the camshaft on the last video. And yeah, that went relatively smooth. Was a bit of a pig to time up afterwards, just because I lost the photos of my timing marks. So yeah, that was fun. Managed to sort that, and yeah, got it running. So I did have the footage, and I was fully intending on putting that video out, but very shortly after that, I got stuck in with the carb stuff, and very quickly became very frustrated with the car. Yeah, as I say, just nothing felt like it was going right. Yeah, it kind of just sucked a bit for me at that time. So, you know, I didn't really decide to carry on with filming. And I was just focusing on trying to make the car work, which took way longer than I expected. As I say, I started this job, as you all know, back in November last year, with the intention of having it on the road for Ultimate Dubs. Note to self, don't bash your phone when you're trying to bash a spanner. Yeah, so I was trying to get it on the road for Ultimate Dubs, which was going to be the first show. Never happened. Next one for me was Retro Rides, and I was really bummed that I didn't make Retro Rides, because that is one of my favourite shows. And yeah, I just kind of very quickly lost my motivation. It felt I was trying absolutely everything, and yeah, nothing was working. So that's kind of where I got with it. And I mean, we'll talk through that a little bit more in depth in a second. I'll show you my prestige wiring diagram that I had to make, because as a few of you will probably know, if you've done any research or done one of these carb conversions on a 2F Polo yourself, these all come with injection from the factory, which means they have an ECU which sits in there, and a shitload of wiring that, quite frankly, for this you really don't need. Or at least at the time, that is what I thought. So yeah, as I said, we'll go through that a bit more in depth. And yeah, where do we start? So I suppose we should start with the strip down. So obviously standard SPL unit off, manifold off, all the wiring off, and ECU out. And I basically just laid everything down on the floor as it came off, and you know, was left with just an engine, no inlet manifold, no engine electricals, and that was that. My inlet manifold, which if I scoot around here, is a very nice aluminium inlet manifold, custom made by Dan ST Engineering. Can be a bit fiddly with the welds, getting the bolts into the head, but yeah, really good. Very impressed. You can kind of get them made to your spec. So I have a vacuum takeoff on each port for the vacuum boost bar that runs just underneath. You can see there. And this just regulates the vacuum to the distributor. And I also have a takeoff on the one on the end there for the brake servo, so I can retain my servo-assisted braking, which is nice. So yeah, they sell that. They sell the rubber kit for the carbs. And then, down here, we have my carbs. Obviously these are just CBR 600 carbs, but you will notice I have Dan ST Engineering's trumpet kit. So this is a 50mm height trumpet kit with the adapter plates there just to go on the standard carbs, and then these bolt in, and I have little mesh screens that I've installed. So yeah, really good quality stuff. Yeah, impressed with it. Very happy with what it cost for what I got, and I mean, it just looks cool sat over there with its trumpets and all its glory. So yeah, there was that. Obviously I bought that stuff relatively early on. Once I figured this was the path I was going to be going, obviously I decided on the cam, and I thought it'd be better to not, cheap out on my bike carb setup. I wanted it to look nice, I wanted it to sound cool, and I wanted it to just be a tidy sort of setup. So yeah, super chuffed with the Dynasty engineering stuff. Really good quality products, really good after support. I could message the guys about pretty much anything, and they do their best to try and help. I even lost my stickers. They sent me new stickers. I didn't have to pay for them. I didn't even have to pay postage. They didn't even ask for my address. They just sent them. That's good. That's good after service, if you ask me. So yeah, impressed with Dynasty Engineering. So that's where I got all my carb setup stuff for. And then I, after doing some reading and some research, decided I was going to go for a Mark II Polo distributor. Hall sender, ignition coil, there's an ignition control module up there. So basically I moved from the SPI setup back to the Mark II ignition control module setup, which allowed me to do something like this. So it's a very simple, hang on, I'll grab it down. This is a very, very simple wiring diagram. So basically I gutted my engine loom, took the ECU away. All I retained is the relay and the wires that came out the relay. So this relay was the original relay for the fuel pump. So I'm still running the in-tank lift pump, which this still powers. So yeah, wire colours there, which are straight out of the Haynes manual, so everything's come from there. And yeah, I kind of just took an ignition live, which is on a really convenient, handy plug down there by the headlight. And I can't remember what colours the wires were coming out of that, but yeah, nice to be able to just pick up an ignition live from there, which was good. Obviously battery pause, battery, earth, and then the out, which retained the same output to the fuel pump. All I did was I spliced into the output for the fuel pump and run that to my ignition live. So my ignition coil and my in-tank fuel pump run off the same relay, so that kept that simple. I haven't had any issues with it. Touch something wood. I have wood somewhere. Touch wood. No issues. So yeah, that seems to be a good setup. And yeah, that's helped me keep it very simple in terms of my wiring loom. All I really retained from the SPI loom is the two wires that run to these two pressure switches on the head, the oil pressure switches, and one of the temperature sensor plugs. Can't remember off the top of my head which one you've been. I'm pretty sure it's the blue plug that you no longer have, and you retain the black one, which obviously just makes the gauge work on the dash. So yeah, fairly simple. And then you have this hall sender wiring that comes out the ignition control module. The ignition control module then just runs down to here, picks up through your coil, takes the live from your coil, which obviously comes from that wiring diagram up there. Really simple to wire in, really simple to get working. So I bought all that stuff second hand, and that came with a aftermarket distributor and aftermarket ignition control module, which ended up causing me problems later down the line. I swapped that out for a genuine one, and I swapped the ignition control module out for a genuine one, which solved a lot of my running issues. So yeah, there's that. And yeah, so that was kind of the ignition side of stuff done. But I was a bit sort of silly with my fueling. So obviously, some of you will know carbs don't need a lot of pressure whatsoever. Somewhere around 2 psi, 2.5 psi. Really not a lot. So My in-tank lift pump brings probably, I don't know, 4 or 5 psi on the line, which I was unaware of at the time, and my big brain idea was to get another pump, mount it here on the wing, and run the lift pump to supply this pump, and then this pump pumped fuel. I had the hose running up round here through a filter, and then it supplied the carbs, and it had like a T-piece and a return, and it was painful. I mean, it caused me more problems than it solved. I just couldn't seem to get the fuel in right on the car whatsoever, which leads me over to this puppy. This is a Malpassi Filter King regulator unit with a built-in filter bowl. This is a really good bit of kit. Comes with a gauge, really easy to set up, and I literally just brought my supply from the tank, the lift pump, straight into this unit here. It's then regulated down to, I think it's about 2.3 psi, and then it runs straight into my carbs with no return. And yeah, I've just capped the return line off on the car. So this is the setup that seems to work for me. This is the setup that obtained me my power figures on the dyno. Yeah, lovely, good bit of kit. Just mounted there on the firewall. Yeah, smart, good bit of kit. They're about £86, I think, which, you know, okay, it's a touch pricey on off the get go, but it's fantastic. It really is. It solved a lot of my issues, and yeah, I couldn't recommend that enough. And obviously the other thing was the AEM X Series AFR gauge, which I spent a lot of time messing around with getting that set up, and well, not getting it set up because it's plug and play and it's really easy to fit and get working. You do have to weld a bung in your exhaust, which I did. The fiddly bit is finding somewhere in the car for it to go that doesn't look terrible. I am a fan of clean sort of bits. There's fucking wheels everywhere down here. So yeah, probably difficult for you to see in this light, but this here is where I have mine, in the blower vent for the driver's side, which I had to piss around and gut the vent and make plates to mount the gauge up to, and it was kind of fiddly, but it works. And yeah, it looks quite good. It's nice, it's out the way, it's not too much, it's not too in your face. And yeah, it's very helpful. I mean, I shunned them for ages, because I just didn't think I was going to need them. And yeah, fantastic bit of kit. I've recommended it to 2 or 3 people who have gone and bought them, and it's aided them in setting up their cars. So definitely a good bit of kit, definitely worth investing in. Again, pricey. I think I paid about £260 for mine from Tegawa. They were very good. I had a really bad experience with Demon Tweaks. Tegawa sorted me out, had it out next day, and yeah, really just allowed me to crack on and get it done. I would show you putting the throttle cable on this, but it's an absolute fucking nightmare, and it's very fiddly, and I get very upset. So I'm going to throw the throttle cable on, and then I'll come back to you. Do you ever do that thing where you put something somewhere safe so you don't lose it, and then you go to get it, and you realise that you've put it in somewhere so safe that you don't actually know where you put it? Yeah, it's me right now, trying to find the 4 clamps for the rubbers for the carbs, which I can't find, which is fun. So I best keep looking. Fuel is plumbed into the carbs, cable is on the carbs, servo takeoff is on, so yeah, just got to find these 4 jubilees, and the carbs can go on, and we're moving. There you go. I have not done that in a hot minute. So, does that not look 10 times better than having an ugly SPI unit in there? yeah, just it's something that will never get old for me. Is that view? Lots of shiny, lots of noise, good power, smiles all round, and that for me. The reason I did the bike carb conversion in the first place was because I had a trip to Cafe and Machine with a friend, and yeah, for the entire the way he was chasing me back, all I could hear was carb noise behind me, and from there it was just like, yeah, I need a bit of that. So that's why I went for this conversion in the first place, and yeah, it just looks incredible. I think like I say, it still never gets old, and it is just a timeless look for me. Every time I open the bonnet, I still have to sort of sit there in awe and be like, wow, I built this in this small council garage with a car battery, an inverter, and an LED light for that's all just basic hand tools, a couple of power tools and stuff, and yeah, away I go. This is my abode. This is where I spend my time, and I managed to churn out something like this. And yeah, I think the best bit for me was pulling this out the garage when I'd finally hammered the last nail and dialed the car. It was running on all four. It was span wheels coming out the garage for the first time in months. Like, it had shown signs of wanting to be making power and driving nice. And yeah, that first drive for me, I was giddy. I was like a kid. And if I can find, I'll insert a couple of the clips in from the first time I drove it. Yeah, I mean, I was so happy, and I might add my dyno run video on the end as well. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much where we're at with it. So obviously fueling, we spoke about the Malpassi Filter King fuel setup. Ignition wise, we're running the Mark II stuff. I explained that, took you through my wiring diagram, and yeah, obviously the carbs, pretty straightforward. That is kind of all there is to it. I mean, yeah, timing was a massive thing for me on the dyno. I think we moved 10mm on the distributor, and that made most of the difference in almost doubling the power figure we went in with, which, yeah, was crazy. And, that's why I say it's really good to get close with an AFR gauge, but you absolutely, if you're going to do one of these setups, you absolutely have to have it put on the rolling mode. Yeah, I just, best way, it's safe, what power it makes, you can brag to all your friends about how fast your tiny little red shoebox is, and yeah, I mean, it's definitely a labour of love at this point, and the money it's cost isn't healthy, but yeah, it is good fun, and I do enjoy it. So yeah, that's a carb conversion. A rough skimmed over, probably 30 minutes of what goes into doing a carb conversion. Like I say, there was lots of hiccups, lots of bits I had to sort out, modifying the throttle cable. I mean, that is a bike BMX cable, brake cable. Yeah, that's my throttle cable. Odyssey Slick BMX cable, if you're wondering. And yeah, just having to piss about, taking the pedal off, drilling a hole in the pedal for the cable to go through, making that work. Choke cable, obviously this car never came with a choke, so yeah, mounting something for a choke cable, running the choke cable through the car, out the firewall, making it work, taking off the old accumulator at the back for the SPI unit and that sort of thing. Just, there's lots of little bits that go into doing one of these that people perhaps don't talk about or don't tell you. And even for me, like that night when I sat in here and I had all the wires laid out on the floor, and I was thinking, right, how am I going to make this work? This car that was never designed to have this, has an ECU. I've taken the ECU out. How am I going to make this work? And, it probably took me 3 nights of looking through that book, studying the standard wiring diagrams and figuring out which wires, what colours they were, where they came through on the car, I think it was someone on the Facebook forum that told me the ignition line was down here for the loom. Obviously, I wouldn't, without that information, I'd have been chasing my tail and potentially splicing into, like, ignition wires in the cab, and it's a learning curve, and, the things I know about this car now, this engine, this wiring loom, is massive, and I could probably talk to you for hours about how I did the conversion, or, what went into it, but yeah, I think we've sort of gone over the main points. I suppose if my advice now to anyone that has an SPI Polo, or any 8-valve SPI engine, and they want to put it on motorbike carbs, I think my advice to you is don't do what I did and strip your entire loom out, because it's a nightmare. You can run the standard ECU. I found this out afterwards, so you can run the standard ECU, the standard ignition coil, the standard distributor, and all you can take off is all the fuel stuff. You can cut them plugs out, you can take them plugs up in there somewhere, you can get rid of all that. You don't need that. The car will still run as it is. It's a set of carburetors, you put fuel to it, it's all mechanical, it does it all for you. You know what I mean? You have a throttle cable, carbs. You can leave all the factory ignition stuff. All you have to do is get rid of... You don't even have to get rid of the high pressure fuel pump. If you have one of these, you can regulate it down to what you need, plumb the fuel straight into the carbs, and away you go. Like, that is all there is to it. And yeah, that's, maybe the route I wish I'd gone down, but I suppose not, because I got rid of a lot of wires that I didn't need, and an ECU, weight reduction. But yeah, that's how I've done it. That's my take on a bike carb setup. Yeah, and proof's in the pudding. I mean, it made almost double the power it came out of the factory with, and that to me was incredible. And yeah, like I say, it drives massively different now. Cold starts are awful. Low down is not ideal. But yeah, I mean, once she gets going, if you send it up there in the revs, this thing is an almighty little flyer. And yeah, it just is a recipe for goodness. I mean, the trumpets, coupled with the exhaust noise from having the 4-to-1 and the decat, yeah, it's just a different level of cool. And I think it's definitely made me appreciate my car more. Yeah, like I say, it taught me a lot of stuff, and I can turn around at the end of it and say that everything that's done to this car was me. Do you know what I mean? I've done this. There were nights where I could have perhaps used help or assistance, and yeah, sadly, I mean, I don't know, people just don't come through or whatever, and it sort of pushed me to take it all on my own and do it all on my own, and I do kind of appreciate that now, because like I say, you could ask me a question about the carbs or the ignition setup or the fueling setup, and I could tell you anything you want to know, because I did everything. Do you know what I mean? Like, the knowledge I don't know about this probably isn't worth knowing for the sake of having a car running on bike carbs. And I mean, yeah, it's by no means perfect. It's not a tucked bay, or it's probably not show trophy winning material, but it's given me some cool opportunities. I mean, tail end of this year, I was invited by Hot Wheels to join in on their Legends tour in the UK. So I went to Radwood, which was at Bicester Heritage, for the Hot Wheels Legends tour final, which a friend of ours had actually made it into, which was really cool. So it was cool to see that car up there, it was cool to see all the other cars up there, and it was cool to have my car outside with a Hot Wheels banner in the window. And it was just, you know, one of those childhood things that, you know, Hot Wheels was massive for me. Hot Wheels is still big for me. You know, I have a Hot Wheels display on my bedroom wall. Like, you know, for a lot of us as kids, that's what got us into this. And yeah, to have been emailed from someone at Hot Wheels to say, we'd like you to come to a car show, for me, crazy. And even now, like, you know, next year I've been invited to a mostly air-cooled Volkswagen show by Performance VW magazine, and they're having I think it's for the first time ever, they're doing a water-cooled car display for, you know, best of water-cooled, whatever, best water-cooled cars in the country. And they have asked me to, well, I've been selected. I applied, I've been selected to show up, and yeah, hopefully we may even make it into the Performance VW magazine, which would be awesome. Again, like another bucket list thing ticked off my list for this car. So yeah, I got a little bit of work to do. Obviously get this running, other bits which I won't disclose on the YouTube because I haven't told a lot of people what the plan is for this. And yeah, it should be soon, looking a bit smarter, running again, all good. And yeah, March we are there, in Surrey, and I really for the life of me cannot remember off the top of my head the show, but when it comes to me, it will come to me. Volksworld, it did come to me. So yeah, we're going to be at Volksworld in March, which will be cool. Yeah, again, really big for me. Yeah, I just didn't think the car was going to get as much traction as it has, with, you know, the community. And yeah, just seeing people's feedback on and views on this car and how it looks and how it's come along is crazy. You know, even to the point of like videos of mine being shared by bigger automotive groups, and it's just cool. It's a heartwarming feeling of being like, I threw this together in a council garage outside of working hours, with, let's be honest, not the hugest, you know, not the most big fund. You know, I could have a crazy painted bay and fully resprayed, and you know, it's really not. It's a home-built, homebrew, little fun hot hatch, and yeah, it's just an extension of me, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I could sit here and bore you to death all day long with me and my car, but I won't. Bit of fresh juice. Gimmel. I've already put about 1.5 litres in, so we come down to about 3. Good stuff. Managed to do it without spilling either. I lied. I spilled a bit on the second pour. It was all going so well. Wants a bit more. That'll do, we'll take that. So, all we need to do now is go and get my new oil cap, because I have another oil cap which I managed to find in the scrapyard the other day, which is better than this one. Voila. Very nice. Shame it doesn't sit straight. It's going to annoy the fuck out of me. Wouldn't it be nice if it just sat like that? No. Awesome. Well, I did have a nice new oil cap, but I'm sure that's going to piss me off. Nice. All that's left to do now before she should be a runner is put the lower rad hose on and get some coolant in her. So, that's oil in, coolant's in. I've just double checked, it turns over by hand. I'm now just psyching myself up for the first start. I do this every time, no matter how many times I've played with an engine, pulled an engine apart, pissed about with anything. You always get to this moment before you turn the key and you just think, have I done absolutely everything I needed to do? It is the same for me every time, but we're going to go for first start. Let it build some fuel pressure. Choke cable decided it's not playing ball, so yeah, we're gonna have to do a ghetto choke cable. Right, we have fuel pressure, so I don't expect it to go first time, but turns over, it's a bit slow. Yeah, I think my battery's a bit dead, but it does turn, which is good. It's always a pain getting this thing to start if you haven't used it in a hot minute. Always a pain. Right, let us go one more time. Oh, almost. No, I don't think it's going to let us have it. I don't think we're going to get it. No. Oh, well, that's disastrous. Nightmare. It is all back together and it is ready to roll. It's just let me down. I mean, in fairness, it has been sat up here for like well over a month now, not running, so yeah. I will not be defeated. Ah, where's the keys? It works, the light's gone out in the garage. Hey, the light's back on in the garage. And it's dead. Come on. Ah. God damn it. Well, it ran. It ran for a very short period of time. Now I have no light because I was using my Ledger battery that runs the light to jump off. So, yeah, that's good fun. But yeah, it ran. well, that will be all, I suppose. I shall have to come back up with the jump pack or take the battery home and charge it. But yeah, signs of life. It started, it ran for a second, and then I touched the throttle and it kaput, and then I killed my battery. So yeah, all in all, successful evening. It runs. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I shall try to not take a year to post another video this time. Enjoy the clips at the end. Thanks for coming. Well, that would be fucking boring, wouldn't it? I went and got the jump pack because I don't know when to quit and go home and eat dinner. Hush. There you go. I believe that's doing something. Let's just put the choke, ghetto choke on. That's doing its thing. It should, I think, fire into life. Sounds more lively. Ah, come on. Jesus Christ. It's really not going well for me today, is it? No, I don't want the fucking light on. Oh, I've broken it. Let's go for a better earth. Come on. That's better. Suppose I should put the window down. It runs. Let's kill it for a minute. Check the levels. Let's go for round 2. This jump pack. It's going to be the bloody death of me. Ugh. Right. Oh. Better. Bear in mind, this is the first time this car has run now since early November. Hey! That'll do for me, I think. Thank you guys for coming along. If you made it this far, you got to hear some cool Polo noises. And yeah, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Till next time. Oh, oh.